How we doing, everybody? This is Dennis Morales, and you are on my YouTube channel where I talk about everything and anything within the psychedelic realm. Today we're going to be going over MindMed's Investor Deck, and as of March 2020, I got this from their website, mindmed.co. Check them out. But let's get going. So again, MindMed, this is the beginning. Disclaimer, don't really have to worry about that. A paradigm shift is needed in mental health. Psychedelic-inspired medicines offer solutions to retool and address a continuum of large mental health problems. 40 million people suffer from anxiety, 10 million from ADHD, 20 million from certain kinds of addictions, and 17 million with depression. A psychedelic opportunity. Through regulated human clinical trials, MindMed develops medicines inspired by psychedelics that address the significant unmet needs. So psychedelics, in parentheses it says Schedule 1 drugs, would be the following: LSD, psilocybin, MDMA, and ibogaine. And then moving over, a resurgence in the research of psychedelic substances supports the development of psychedelic-inspired medicines into transformative medicine. So ideally, it seems like these psychedelic compounds would help with migraines, PTSD, drug addiction, depression, and alcoholism. MindMed has assembled the most compelling IP portfolio, clinical pipeline, and drug development platform in the new psychedelic industry. A new class of medicines. MindMed is pioneering a new way to treat mental health through psychedelic-inspired medicine. So they're looking at two different options. They're looking at non-hallucinogenic medicines and hallucinogenic therapies. Under non-hallucinogenic medicines, they have derived from psychedelics, zero to negligible hallucination effect, doctor prescription, pharmacy pickup, take home. An example would be like a microdose of LSD and psilocybin 18-MC. So again, that's more of like a doctor's prescription, quick, does the job, nothing too invasive, nothing too crazy. And then hallucinogenic therapies would be a high dose or experiential dose of psychedelics, direct supervision and therapy session overseen by therapist and doctor, in clinic treatment only. An example would be S-ketamine, Johnson & Johnson approved in 2019, psilocybin, LSD, MDMA. So I think that when it comes to hallucinogenic therapies, they're like, that would be where you go to your psychiatrist, for example, and then they kind of walk you through a session while you're taking psilocybin, LSD, MDMA, or S-ketamine. And then moving on, we've got MindMed's regulatory approach. Psychedelics will be commercialized as regulated medicines. Regulated clinical trials of Schedule 1 substances are legal. High barriers to entry and limiting factors, GMP production and supply of drugs, research scientists with psychedelics in background, experienced clinical drug development teams, clinical data licensing, development of IP, patent filings, preclinical, phase 1, 2, 3 trials cost time and money. Regulatory approvals / federal regulation enable market exclusivity. IP defendability equals institutional capital. So I think the biggest thing here to take note of is that, look, at the end of the day, for a company like MindMed to be successful and do well, they have to pass these trials through the FDA, because otherwise, if they don't get FDA approved, essentially they won't be able to really commercialize these psychedelic compounds as regulated medicines, which is the goal. Moving on. So first FDA approved psychedelic medicine in March 2019 established the precedent. Spravato, or S-ketamine in parentheses, approved psychedelic by FDA, treatment-resistant depression. So that's pretty cool. So the way I'm looking at this, right, if S-ketamine, Spravato, was, as of March 2019, was approved by the FDA, psilocybin, in my opinion, DMT, MDMA, LSD, all these other psychedelic compounds are soon to follow. So that's why I think MindMed is not bad, you know, and I'll be going over other psychedelic company investment decks as time goes on. But annual global sales forecast in 2024, 1.3 billion USD, and if you're in Canada, 1.7 billion CAD. So within their clinical pipeline, MindMed is advancing and building a compelling pipeline of psychedelic-inspired medicines through clinical trials. MindMed will continue to expand its pipeline and IP over the next 6 to 12 months through co-development agreements, in licensing with leading academic research institutions of existing and new clinical research in psychedelics, proprietary clinical trials with new psychedelics. So on this graph, they have non-hallucinogenic psychedelics, those being 18-MC, ibogaine derivative, and microdose LSD. Area of research, opioid withdrawal and treatment for 18-MC, opioid use disorder, OUD, and adult ADHD for microdosing LSD. So at the moment, a lot of these, at least 18-MC ibogaine, their phase 2 initiation is this year. Opioid use disorder with ibogaine as well the anticipated phase 3 initiation is in 2021, and then phase 2 initiation for microdosing LSD to help combat adult ADHD is in this year, 2020. Sweets. And then they start talking about the opioid crisis, because at the end of the day, these psychedelic compounds have the potential to really help a lot of people in the future, especially people who are suffering from the opioid crisis. I can't say that word for the life of me, but this little slide touches on that. So opioid crisis calls for urgent solution. Existing addiction treatments are inadequate. And then here's a quote from Tom Price, former U.S. Secretary of Health. Let's go HHS. I have no idea what that means. If we're just substituting one opioid for another, we're not moving the dial much, which is true. It's 100% true. So there's about 500 billion annual cost in the USD in USD, 11 million misusing opioids, 11 million people misusing opioids, and over 47,000 overdoses. Holy crap. I mean, I knew it was big, but that's a lot. $500 billion. That's crazy. So then the example they give below is Suboxone, which has a 90%, greater than 90% failure rate, which is not acceptable if people are taking this as medicine. Like, that's not okay. So new FDA incentives for opioid treatments are being looked at as of April 2018. Accelerated approval / breakthrough designation for development of treatments for opioid use disorders. Lowered the threshold for approval, August 2018. Lower threshold for approval, fewer occasions per day rather than total abstinence. So again, the big guys upstairs know that this is a problem, and they're trying to fix it. That's basically what I got from this. And again, psychedelics, in my humble opinion, is what's going to help with that. But then let's go talk about, then MindMed brings us to 18-MC, a solution for the opioid crisis. 18-MC would, be a transformational approach to addiction based on the psychedelic substance ibogaine. So ibogaine, in parentheses, psychedelic substance, is highly effective addiction treatment. The only downsides are cardiac toxicity risk, long hallucinogenic experience. Depending on who you are, that could be uncomfortable, and it's also a Schedule 1 drug. Now, the upside of 18-MC, which is safer than ibogaine, it's still a psychedelic substance. It is a highly effective addiction treatment, so they both check, right? Upsides are it's cardiac safe, it's not hallucinogenic, and it's not a Schedule 1 substance. So it might have sounded like I didn't know what the difference between 18-MC and ibogaine was. I'm starting to understand it more as I'm looking at this graph, but it would seem that 18-MC is like a different compound of sorts, which is great. I mean, hey, I'm here for it. So 18-MC a solution for the opioid crisis continued. So reducing addictive substances without the trip. So again, the goal is to have the hallucinogenic part is kind of lame. No one likes that. I'm not sure if I totally agree with that, but again, it'd be better for the masses, I think, if there was no hallucinogenic, and they seem to agree. So if you look at this graph, there's been a positive dose response, prove that the higher dose of 18-MC, the less opioids are consumed. So if you look, if you're following the mouse, we have cocaine, morphine, and water, 18-MC, and then, so as higher amounts of 18-MC are taken, lower amounts of these bad drugs are consumed. Yeah, wow, that's actually really interesting. So, and then it says, a derivative of ibogaine with similar effects on withdrawal and craving, but without the cardiotoxicity or strange visions. Very nice. 18-MC addresses addiction as a brain disease. Addiction is a disease of the brain. All addictive substances result in dysregulation of the dopamine reward pathway. And then if you look here on the left, you have the non-drug user, and then you have a cocaine abuser. In these brain images are showing decreased dopamine receptors in the brain of a person addicted to cocaine versus a non-drug user. Key insight: new addiction solutions must address dopamine dysregulation in patients. 18-MC addresses addiction as a brain disease. Continued. Opioid addiction alters the brain to crave and release more dopamine, which creates a high, quote unquote. So on this graph, while reading it, right, so you have high in the blue dopamine level, which is the heart pacer looking thing, dopamine baseline, and then the lows. So then if you come here, it says addictions creates craving for dopamine highs. So as you look at the dopamine baseline, you can see that the dopamine levels when you're on something skyrockets. And then the next thing says, works like a nicotine patch, only substitutes opioids for other less harmful narcotics. So that's with Suboxone methadone treatment. So again, works like a nicotine patch. You're just filling the need. You're feeling that want that you have by taking this Suboxone methadone treatment, right? Instead of repeated opioid use where you see the spikes, or the addiction where it's, spike, low, spike, low, really high one, but then with 18-MC, you keep the dopamine level in a normal range without ongoing addiction. So it regulates the dopamine highs, which based off this graph, based off of the brain image we're seeing here and other information that we've heard before, that makes sense. And it sounds like it would actually be of benefit to a lot of people that are struggling with addiction. So then the next slide goes and says, a disruptive solution for addiction will be highly valuable. Treatments that are not highly effective still generate huge annual revenues, which is unfortunately very true. Projected worldwide pharma sales for opioid abuse in 2019 is $2.9 billion. Doll hairs, ladies and gentlemen. That does not sound good. Blockbuster drug potential, and in parentheses, other indications. Substance abuse by the numbers: opioid use disorder, 2M, alcohol use disorder, 14.8 mil. Why did I say 2M? 2 mil. Tobacco users, 47 million. Cocaine use disorder, 1 million. Methamphetamine use disorder, 1 million. In the U.S. addiction rehab market is currently, $42 billion. That's crazy. That's how much the addiction rehab market is at right now. That's incredible. $42 billion. And then projected worldwide pharma sales for opioid abuse in 2019, $2.9 billion. That's incredible. That's so sad. So then the next slide goes on to talk about the microdosing program that they're developing. So MindMed is conducting first ever phase 2 microdosing trial in adult ADHD. So as I think mentioned above, 10 million ADHD adults there are 10 million ADHD adult sufferers. And And then 4.4% of 18 plus population, 16 million US adults on prescription stimulants. So I'm pretty sure prescription stimulant for something like ADHD would be something like Adderall, for example. And then abuse deterrent formulas, IP. MindMed is developing IP that enables LSD psilocybin microdoses to be taken home. FDA clinical trials. MindMed will conduct FDA clinical trials performed with rigorous science enabling clear regulatory pathway. And then we go over to microdosing. So this map right here is a self-medication trend, and then it talks about the phase 2 trial of microdose LSD for adult ADHD. So it's kind of moving from one side to the other. So microdosing, at the moment, illegal, recreational, non-clinical trend. Widespread usage in Silicon Valley. Millennials seek ways to get off ADHD stimulants, meds like Ritalin and Adderall. Oh, I was right. Yeah, I'm glad, because I don't want to feed you guys false information. Illegal and self-prescribed usage. No medical supervision or supporting clinical data. So there's actually been a big rumor out. I mean, if you guys are in the psychedelic space, then you've probably heard of it and or participated, but there's a small, big rumor out there that basically claims that a lot of people in Silicon Valley at some point or another have microdosed using LSD to help with productivity, overall like work functioning, and it's actually, people have said that it actually has helped. I personally have never microdosed. Not that I'm saying I'm opposed to it. I know a few people that have microdosed with LSD and they have had good experiences. So again, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not recommending it. It's currently a Schedule 1 substance, so you didn't hear it from me. So then, with these non-hallucinogenic medicines that MindMed is, working on through their microdosing program, they're offering potential approved medicines, so LSD micro and psilocybin micro. These would be doctor's descriptions, and it'd be like a pharmacy pickup, take home. Like imagine you're pulling up to your local CVS and you're like, hey, my doc just prescribed me psilocybin. I would like my little pills or whatever, my little gummies or LSD micro, and then you go home and you pop some and you have a good time, which, hopefully actually helps your ADHD or addiction or whatever, that would be ideal. Just don't use it to get high. But anyways, ADHD demographics and market in the US. So people with ADHD are at least 1.5 times more likely to develop substance abuse disorders to substances like nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine. Wow, I didn't know that actually. That's a lot. That's pretty high, I feel like. And then 10.9% of adults with ADHD receive treatment. Only 25% of adults with ADHD had been diagnosed as a child or in childhood or adolescence. I can't say that word. Dang. 25%. So 1 in 4. Dang. That's crazy. So ADHD diagnoses among adults are growing 4 times faster than diagnoses among children in the United States. The prevalence of ADHD among adults rose from 0.43% to 0.96% between 2007 and 2016, a 123% increase. That's concerning, actually. And then the next slide talks about ADHD market dominated by stimulants. I'm gonna try my best to say these right, but okay. So amphetamine, dextroamphetamine, mixed salts, or Adderall. So they're just listing the stimulants that are currently being given to people. Amphetamine, dextroamphetamine, mixed salts, extend release. So Adderall XR. I'm not gonna say these. Fosolin, Zenzetti, dexedrine, Spansul, Vyvanse, Aptensio XR, Concerta, and then we have Ritalin SR, Methylene, Ritalin LA, and Equivalent XR. Projected worldwide pharma sales for ADHD in 2019, $9.2 billion. Wow, that's annoying. That's so high. But so MindMed, obviously, especially if you guys follow these guys on social media, check them out on Instagram. They got a Twitter, and I feel like they're pretty active socially. So they've been on investing.com, Forbes, Business Insider, Fast Company, Fortune, Bloomberg, and the Wall Street Journal. And as for those of you guys that don't know, Mr. Wonderful, for the bald dude from Shark Tank, he's heavily invested in this company, and he talks about it all the time. He's got a few YouTube videos about how he's invested in them, and has a few interviews out there as well. Sweet. Moving on, we've got potential catalysts. So critical milestones accelerating over the next 12 months. So this is the next 12 months of progress, really. Again, the MindMed itself is being traded as a penny stock, and as you guys know, for anybody that's a regular investor, like a veteran investor is what I was trying to say. To stay away from penny stocks. That they're very risky, that these things don't typically boom. Now, this is very speculative of me, but I think something like MindMed or another psychedelic company could be, pretty massive. You could make some crazy gains and actually be a part of the journey of helping out a ton of people, which is kind of why I'm invested in a few different psychedelic companies. But yeah, so let's talk about, the potential catalysts, their milestones over the next 12 months. Before we get there, let's talk about past execution. So up until this point, they've activated addiction medicine program, established a microdosing program, executed LOI for ADHD LSD microdosing program, secured the GMP supply of LSD ready in Q3 2019, and announced definitive arrangement for RTO October of 2019, phase 1 MAD and phase 1 SADIRB approval in Australia. So these are all pretty big things. Again, these are things that have been done. The next 12-month milestone and catalysts are 18MC in addiction medicine, complete phase 1B in 2020, so that should be done soon here, within the next couple of months. Phase 2 opioid withdrawal, first patient enrolled, 2020, that would be pretty big news. Microdose LSD and ADHD, phase 2 first patient enrolled, 2020. And corporate development. Announce additional psychedelic programs, LOIs, definitive agreements with neurology and psychiatry programs to announce further clinical trial pipeline additions. So, okay, let's hold up. These 12-month milestones and catalysts are pretty big. If you guys have followed, kept up to date with MindMed, they're already working on a lot of this. As you can tell, we're already 6 months into the year. So if you go on their website, or if you go on like Shroom Stocks on Reddit, or Psilocybin Alpha, if you look them up, they're a pretty good source for the psychedelic space. You'll be able to read up a lot about like news and especially within MindMed, what they're doing, again, because they're pretty out there. They like to be in the public's eye. So investment. So significant past investment in 18MC, 14.6 million invested. And then a $9 million in 2013, some grant by NIDA. MindMed acquired 18MC addiction program as of September 2019. 9.2 million CAD, MindMed seed round of August of last year. And then new capital to execute 32 mil CAD pre-public financing complete February of 2020. And then public listing on the NEO exchange with a ticker MMED. Listed on NEO. So then investors in MindMed, we've got James Bailey of Bale Capital. He's a MindMed investor, and his quote says, "Through psychedelic-inspired medicines, MindMed has the potential to treat the most challenging and damaging mental health issues of our time." I would agree, James. Bruce Linton joined MindMed as strategic investor and board member. There's probably untapped value which will only go to people who are at the beginning and bold. Foresees a similar run for psychedelics as cannabis, but does not propose that they also become social or recreational products. I would agree. I'm not necessarily sure if psychedelics should be legal recreationally in the US. I'm not for any reason in particular. I just don't know that's the thing. Like, I don't know if people, like the general public, could handle that level of, honestly, kind of trippiness. Like, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, comment and say you're wrong, please. And then we have, the GOAT, depending on if you like him or not, Kevin O'Leary. This could save lives, cure depression, help alcoholism, get people off opioids. Why wouldn't I want to be invested as of December 9th, 2019? So he's been about it for 6 months. And then here's the executive team. J.R. Ron, he's the founder and co-CEO. So he's the guy that you'll probably see a lot of his face in. He's got a history with Uber. I listened to an interview. Interview with him, and he's a pretty interesting guy. He's basically the face of MindMed, the way I look at it. So pre-public valuation as of February 2020, 33 cents CAD per share, and then 83 million CAD, and then outstanding shares about 255 million. And then these are the rest of the executive team and the board of directors and scientific advisory board. Bruce Linton of Canopy Growth. For those of you guys that know anything about the cannabis realm, is business vibes, he was a part of Canopy Growth, which is pretty interesting. And the sources of anything, I won't really go through this at all, but if you guys are wondering, please check it out. And that's that. If you guys do have any questions, please leave a comment in the description below. If you vibe, if you like this, please like and comment and subscribe on the channel. I'll be doing a lot more of these myself. And if you have any questions that I don't get back to you about, or you just don't want to talk to me about because I'm annoying, email invest@mindmed.co. And just so you guys here in the States that are looking to invest, if you want to invest into MindMed, the ticker in the US is MMEDF. I know at the top here, let's scroll to the top, it says MMED, so just add an F to the back of that. And that's that. So guys, if you guys enjoyed this deck, again, me going over it, giving my thoughts, kind of talking you through it, please like and subscribe. And if you guys have any questions, please comment below. I'd love to help out and answer more. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys soon. I'm probably going to do another one of these tonight. Okay, bye.